Thank you for plugging into this Family Life News podcast, streaming issues-driven, family-focused news.
Welcome back to another edition of Real Answers with Christopher Anderson. Wednesdays during the Noon Report, we tackle the tough topics facing today's families with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson. And Chris, today we're talking about a very serious issue, one that threatens many, and that's the problem of drug overdoses, particularly from the influx of fentanyl coming in across our borders, Chris.
Yeah, Brandon, that's very true. And this is such a serious issue, and it actually has been for quite some time. But, with the crisis that we have at our southern border today, this is just really becoming an explosive issue.
And a new study out shows that fentanyl overdoses are now the leading cause of death among young adults. What do you think is causing this upsurge in the use among young people?
The problem of recreational drug use has always been an issue, really ever since the discovery of opium and even before with alcohol. But young people today are facing an increasing number of threats and pressures, some of which are a worsening of existing pressures that have been around for a long time, and some of which are actually fairly new to our current generations. But we're also seeing an increase in anxiety and depression in our younger folks, and this is contributing to the mental health crisis we're seeing nationwide.
So where is the hopelessness, the lostness coming from that our youth are experiencing?
Basically a lessening of a focus on traditional Christian values. I know that I'm preaching to the choir here with our listeners, but the reality is that even the founding fathers of our nation, not all of which were on the same page in terms of belief in God, but they all agreed that the principles that were guiding the development of the Constitution were very good and would set up a system that would lead to the strongest republic, honestly, in the history of mankind. But now, of course, with the onslaught of this whole subjective truth, make up your own truth, set your own rules, whatever your own realities is true for you. With all of this has led to an absolute dissolution of the sense of unity and commonality, which used to provide kind of cohesiveness to our society. But a huge contributor to this, Brandon, is the constant stream of bad news coming through our easy access to media and news coverage. And this includes social media, of course. People are discussing and arguing, if not fighting, and this is how the culture war is being played out. So young people today, being the social creatures that they are even more vulnerable to this constant barrage, this constant stream of information, that a lot of which is propaganda and spin based on the political views of one side or the other. So when there's a constant stream of negative news and hopelessness coming into our minds of our youth, not to mention all this gender confusion that we're seeing today, it's easy to understand why people are turning to substances to try to quell the pain.
So I can infer then that the way to help combat this is to be more direct with our young people, discussing faith and how to cope and deal with stress in a healthier manner.
Spot on, Brandon. Absolutely. Parents need to continue to take an active role in addressing the needs of our young people by doing so with an active faith of their own. So in addition to local church involvement at a very young age, I strongly believe that young people benefit from doing things such as service projects, mission trips, and other family activities that are really out of the box that families by and large in mainstream society are not doing these days. So look into sponsor retreats and other getaways for family and teens, like I said, that are sponsored by reputable Christian organizations where parents and their children and teens will be involved in activities together, building their relationships with each other and with other people, offering opportunities to network with other families of similar beliefs. All of this will help young people to feel connected, to develop friends that might be outside of their immediate social circle in school, provide a sense of community, belonging, and meaning in their lives that's all centered around Christ, and then give them the hope that otherwise might not develop if parents only focus on the resources available in our school systems.
Chris, what can parents do to get involved with these types of activities, trips, organizations, you name it?
Before I even get right to that answer, I want parents to understand something, too, that I don't want you to fall into the error of thinking that if your children are older, that it's too late to do this. It's definitely not too late. Start having conversations with them, even if they're a little older. Be the influential leaders and power players that you are as parents, and take responsibility if you have dropped the ball in this area. Talk to your teens directly and let them know your heart and why you want to start doing things a little differently. And also, if you made mistakes growing up, such as doing drugs yourself or engaging in other activities such as premarital sex, and now you regret doing so, you're positioned very well to tell your teens why if they choose to go down those roads themselves, it's going to be not a good turnout. Avoid the common mindset, and it's a trap, really, that is a lie straight from the pit of hell, that just because you did it yourself growing up, that for some reason you don't have a leg to stand on now, or that you don't have the authority to be able to tell them to do otherwise. I've heard that from parents, and that is just not true.
You've been listening to another edition of Real Answers with Christopher Anderson. It airs Wednesdays during the Noon Report. We tackle the tough topics facing today's families with Christian counselor Christopher Anderson.